I know one. Ah, no, it tells me
Okay.
when. Ha ha! Greetings, readers and travelers. My name is Richie Stevens,
I'm Joel.
I'm Jessica.
and this is Chattin Stats. And not only is it Chattin Stats, it's the season finale for the fourth season of Chattin Stats. I guess the first season of Chattin Stats, but the fourth season of the Stats show because we were Stats on Stats and now we're Chattin Stats. You know, rebranding, it's always fun. Anyways, it's the season finale. We made it 4 years. Jess, you made it halfway through a year because you joined us halfway through. How are you feeling about the Stats show?
I'm excited for next year.
Oh, we have a lot of cool things
Yeah, we
coming
got a
up
lot of
next year.
stuff.
But before we go into details about that, we are joined by a very, very special guest today. He doesn't have his camera on because there was technical difficulties, which is why we had a late start. But that's okay because it wouldn't be a web show without having some technical difficulties. Joining us
Especially for the
today,
final episode.
especially for the final episode, but joining
Yeah.
us today, you may know him as the voice of Jason Asano, Taika, pretty much the entire cast of He Who Fights with Monsters, but also Horrendous
Mhm.
Fishing, and a few others. But joining us today is Mr. Heath Miller. Heath, how are we doing today?
Hello, I'm doing well. Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
It is so nice to have you on here. This is one episode that I know Joel has been begging me to do, and I'm actually kind
Big
of
fan,
excited.
big fan.
I am kind of excited. I will go on the preference of saying it took forever for me to get into He Who Fights with Monsters. Not because of the narration. I just hated Jason Asano's character for the longest time.
Well, you're not alone, obviously. There are many people on the internet who share the same feelings.
Yeah.
Well, and it's
Yeah.
it's not that it's a bad book or anything. It just took forever for me to actually start to connect with him, and it wasn't until the events of book 3 that I was like, okay, I get it now. And then I felt it, and I was like, okay, I actually like Jason now. I see where it's coming from. So
Yeah.
I know I
I think
asked.
the whole arc with like 4 onward is just fantastic.
Yo, be sure you're hosting, so remember to tap on comments because we got Joe here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so is this
Jeez.
live, by the way?
This is live.
Oh,
This
This
is
is
yes,
live
live.
on
yes,
our
it is
YouTube.
You were
live.
like you were
Yeah.
like any questions.
Hello,
I'm like I
Joe.
should have asked that question. Where I'm like, it's the thing where I go, you can edit that out later, right? When I said that really terrible
I
thing.
mean, we
that,
are
like...
going to be doing editing and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
before we dive into today's episode, we do have a couple of announcements. Since this is the season finale, we are going to be taking some time off. Mostly, almost all of January. I think we're going to have an episode the last month of January or the last week of January. January is a month. Um, I'm in a whole different realm right now. It feels like um, we're going to be taking some time off, but also we're going to have a little changes. We are going to be launching our Patreon here soon,
Yay.
and we are no longer going to be doing live shows on YouTube and Twitch and the Lit RPG Legion page. We will be uploading the videos to YouTube and our podcast apps afterwards. But if you want to watch a live show, we're going to have a $3 tier a month. It supports us and it helps with keeping the channel going, keeping it up on podcast apps or whatever, because nothing's free. So
Yeah.
it just all proceeds and everything go back into the channel. We will have a higher tier later because we will also be launching our merch store. I know a lot of people have been asking for Chat and Stats shirts, hats, whatever. We're going to be doing it all. We're going to have it all up. We're going to have the new logo and everything on these so that way we can get going on that, and you can wear it at Jordan Con, Dragon Con, whatever con you go to, Lit RPG Con, next July, where we will also be doing a free live show there because we're going to be panelists at and have our own segment, according to Geneva. Let's see if she keeps that because she might throw a shoe at me or something. I don't know. She'll yell at me to shave. I'll have to make sure I have no facial hair. She hates it. But yeah,
We'll post more on the Discord channel as we get closer to when we come back.
yes. Shame Richie Con. That is 100% right, Joe. Thank
That's
you.
my favorite con.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. I mean, everyone just shames me constantly. It could be why my mental health is bad. We don't know. I joke about it. That was not healthy of me. Holy shit. Heath, I should preface. You're allowed to say whatever the hell you want on here. it's an 18 plus show, so curse words are okay.
Sure, all right. Yeah, I'll I'll keep that in mind.
We've had guests come on and they went, well, shit. Oh, what was I allowed to say that?
Well,
No,
I was live streaming a CW Titus, the first book of a CW Titus series called Downtown Druid on TikTok recently. It's not actually a lit RPG.
I watched some of it.
It's fantasy. Oh, you did, yeah. And every time I talked about them dealing their fantasy drugs, it would get blocked. And I got booted twice, I think, or 3 times.
Oh no!
Yeah, but it's really interesting because you can cut off people and use their heads as puppets. That's fine. But as soon as you say that you grow something in a dungeon basement and then sell it to someone, immediately it comes up with that you're promoting inappropriate commercial services. I'm like, I'm not really selling it.
It's not even real.
It's not real, no.
Exactly. It's not even real. So there was lots of gifs on the Discord of Gandalf, with the pipe weed, the long bottom leaf.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
it's funny that they would. It's funny that they would kick that.
Yeah. So, but it's funny because I've never been booted for. I've done some romance on TikTok and as well, and I know some of my colleagues who do like the more spicy, explicit, erotic romance. They do mute sometimes when they get to stuff that I think is going to get them banned or blocked.
POS.
But I haven't had that. So apparently it's just as long as I don't grow any weed and sell it. It'll be fine.
There you go.
Which that's weird because it's like legal in most states now.
Indeed, it's legal in the state I am in.
It's not where I'm at
Maine.
Because our government hates us.
I don't know if it's legal here in Kentucky.
It is. It is.
Is it? I mean, this is literally like day 2 in Kentucky for me, so I have no idea.
But again, it's not a thing that actually exists.
Right.
In the context in which I was doing it. Because, it's I guess the analog is clear enough, and it did use the word weed, I think. Weed? Yes, I think he does use the word weed. And dust is the other one.
Love it.
So, yeah.
Well,
anyway, thank you for letting me know that I can say anything here. That's good to know.
No, it's as long as it's not like a derogatory term or a slur, we don't care. That's pretty much it. Like, we just try to have fun here. That's the whole point of the show.
If you've listened to me stream my recordings, you'll know that it is usually profanity laden. There's not much I can do about that. Not the book, just me when I mess up.
And we're reading this like, fuck. Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
That's me 9 times out of 10.
I do enjoy watching your live streams, though. They are fun.
Oh, thank you. Thanks.
They're a good time. Joel, have you watched any of his live streams? No, you don't use TikTok.
I have not. No.
Yeah.
Not a big social media guy. Sorry.
Nerd.
That's okay too.
I just listened to the completed edition. And,
I mean, there's much less of me
fangirl to myself.
There's much less of me swearing at my stomach if you listen to the completed book. I'd say much less because I think book 10 was it? It made it through. Oh, hello. I think it was
that's
book
my
10.
book. That's my book right there. That's book 1.
Maybe I think it was book 10 that you hear me say, "Are we done? Are we done?" And that was me asking my stomach if it had stopped making noise, and it somehow made it through both my upload and then through 2 rounds theoretically of proofing and quality control and into the finished product. And they don't usually update books. It's not like it's a computer game and they release a patch, but they did update the version of that because enough people immediately started emailing both me and the publisher saying, "Are you talking to a dog or a child? What's that about?"
No, you're just channeling your inner Jason Asano.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
Yep, talking to my stomach.
I think we should just go ahead and dive right in. Heath, what's it like narrating one of the biggest lit RPGs in the world right now?
On some level, it doesn't matter whether I'm working on a book that the author alone will listen to, presumably, and their mother, depending on how their relationship with their parents is, or, a bestseller in that it's still just me in a box talking to myself.
Right.
However, it is wonderful to have so many people listen to it. It's fantastic to have messages through social media and through other things, where people say they had a long drive, or they a relative was in hospital and they were stuck there with them, and listening to the book made that time more bearable, or made that time pass easier, or that it helps them get to sleep. That's always somewhat of a barbed, I feel, compliment. Audiobook narrators get it a lot, or at least I do. People are like, I love listening to your books. They put me right to sleep.
I only do that with books I've already read. And actually, one of them is one of the books you narrate. So
nice. I mean, I get it. Sorry.
I will say that I was driving. I just moved to Kentucky, and so I was driving from Atlanta to Kentucky, where I'm living now, yesterday. And I was driving behind someone who was pulling a U-Haul trailer, so we could not drive very fast. So my normally 6-hour drive was probably closer to 8 or 9 hours. And I just listened to Heretical Fishing the whole drive.
It's a good. It does make drives a lot more bearable. I mean, the entire way down to Dragon Con, that's like a 9.5-hour drive for us. And audiobooks the entire time.
Yeah, I see. Ryan was just saying about the comfort. Exactly. I mean, I listen to one of my favorite sort of works of art, as it were, storytelling, is A Play for Voices Under Milkwood by Dylan Thomas, which I recorded a bit of this morning. I've been putting it on my Patreon in sort of small increments, and I used to listen to that when I was on tour doing theatrical acting, because again it was something to put on that I'd heard so many times that was just comforting and I could fall asleep to it, and that's one of my favorite pieces of audio, and I liked falling asleep to that. So it's, I try and take it as a compliment. It's just, there's always a slight moment where someone's like, yeah, it's great. You put me right to sleep. I try listening to you and unconsciousness embraces me immediately.
I just take the melatonin and I press play, set a timer for 30 minutes, and I'm out. That's how I get through.
But yeah, no, it's fantastic having so many people listen. It's an odd one too, because among my colleagues, and indeed, I guess, sort of the general populace, lit RPG is so popular and yet so still off the mainstream radar.
Yeah, it's still very niche. Yeah. It's still very niche.
Yeah, and that might change with Dungeon Crawler Carl, if that gets some sort of, or if something gets a TV or an animation adaptation or a film. And I mean, even Dungeon Crawler Carl being in actual bookstores is, I think, a step in that direction as well.
Right.
But it's fascinating because I'll be like, oh, the book was like #1 in Audible, and someone's like, what category? And well, all categories. Like, it came out and it was #1 across the entire Audible charts. And I sort of see people, my colleagues, kind of narrow their eyes and do a double take, and then I can hear them Googling it, where they're like, what the fuck is he talking about? Like, because it's not, the other ones in the list on that day were Lord of the Rings, like Oprah's Book Club, something like Michael Matt, what's his name? Autobiography of that one was up there forever. I can only think of him from like the car ads where he sits there and like mutters to himself. From Dazed and Confused and
Matthew McConaughey.
That's it. Thank you.
Every time I picture him, I just see him from Dazed and Confused, and it's the worst look. I just can't. I can't with Matthew McConaughey. Mm-mm.
Yeah, so it's it's that kind of thing where it's very popular, but it's like it's its own thing. So but I occasionally do convince people that it exists.
Well, so we had I work in phone sales now, so I sell phones at retail, and had mom and her son in the store, and we were transferring his data from one phone over to another. I was like, oh, you have Audible on there, so like just so you know, when we transfer the stuff, you will have to re-download all your books. You'll have to log in. It's just transferring the app installation over. but all of your data and everything is saved through the actual Audible login. So when you log in, go back to the book you're listening to, and
Yeah.
it'll pop right up. And he goes, okay, cool. I mean, I'm on my re-listen of this series right now, and it's really good, and I don't want to stop. I was like, oh, cool. What are you listening to? He goes, He Who Fights with Monsters. You probably never heard of it. I was like, oh, buddy, no.
Oh
Please.
wow, that's
I
amazing.
just hung out with
That's awesome.
Moon at Dragon Con. I have a
Sure.
show coming up with Heath Miller, so
That's amazing. Yeah,
But
that's
I've
a
never
real
heard of it.
world. Yeah, that's a real world rarity. It's happened to me once. I walked into the barber that I've been going to since I moved here to the city, and the barber shop, but it was a new stylist. And I walked in, and she said, your voice is really familiar. And I was like, oh, okay, sure. She said, have we met before? I said, I don't think so. And she said, but your voice sounds really familiar. I said, well, I am a voice actor, but I think it's very unlikely you would have listened to anything that I have done. And she was like, oh, okay. My husband's a huge listener all the time. He just obsessively replays He Who Fights with Monsters.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, and I was like, that's me. Yeah, that's me.
I'm sure she went home and was like, "You're not going to believe who I met today."
Oh, I recorded a video for his birthday, which was a few weeks later.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so that's the only time I have ever been quote unquote recognized in a public capacity for Monsters, which was a delight. I got my hair cut a few weeks ago, and again we chatted about the fact that she also does Eric Uglin's hair.
oh my god.
Okay.
Which I realized the last time I was in there, we're talking about books, and she was like, oh, I had an author in here whose hair I've been cutting. And I think he said he does, because she listens to, you'll find in this podcast that I know what I'm thinking of, the actor, the name of the book. I can usually see the first letter of it. I knew it was an M for, I almost said Michael Madsen for Matthew McConaughey, because it's 2 M's. But I can never actually come up with the name. Yeah, so she listens to the Yaros ones, and it's some of the best-selling books currently in the world. The
Fourth Wing?
No, it's the romantasy ones with the
Sarah J.
dragons.
Maas. Oh no, Fourth Wing.
Yes,
The Dragon,
that's it.
Fourth Wing.
Sarah J. Maas. Yes, that's it. And the Yaros ones. They're two different ones, but she's more into that kind of genre. So she was like, I don't think he writes that. I think he writes some other stuff. And yeah, it was Eric Ugland, who I've never met in person, but who lives here in Maine apparently.
Eric is. I've only interacted with him through social media. Obviously, when I would talk about the good guys and the bad guys, and Jez had him on his his author talk, and Eric is a delight. I cannot wait to meet him in person. Also get him on the show, because I interact with Neil Helligers quite often, who is his narrator. Now I just need to interact with Eric more, and then I know I'm set.
Is it Ugland or is it going to be Oogland? And when I eventually meet him, he's going to be like, I hear you called me Ugly Land.
I've always heard it as Euclid, so I don't know.
Nice.
If you have an accent, you can get away with it.
I didn't know I was going to be saying his name, so I didn't, take the time to try and get it right. Which is the one thing I usually try and get right in a book, is the name of the author. And you would think that would be a given, but in fact, I know tons of authors who've started to listen to their audiobook, and the first thing it says is, after this is Audible, it'll be like, this book by, and then their name is pronounced wrong. So I try and at least get that bit right. But yeah, I haven't met them. Neil sent me an email saying, "Hey, you guys are in the same city. Myself and Eric, you should hang out." And we both responded. This was months ago, and we're like, "Yeah, that's a great idea." And then have not spoken subsequently at all.
That's how it happens sometimes.
But it'll happen eventually.
Well,
Neil's great.
I don't think we have any lit RPG authors in Indiana, and if we do, please message us, because we want to hang out. Joel and I are always looking to hang out with more people.
Nice.
So, yeah.
I bet you probably do. There's probably a stealthy one or two.
Probably.
There probably is. I'm just surprised with how much more lit RPG has grown, because obviously we did the lit RPG Under the Sea event at Dragon Con.
Mm-hmm.
Not this year, but the past year. That was a massive blowout.
Massive, yeah.
This year we had, the Lit RPG After Party event thing, and that was freaking awesome. It's
I
it's
haven't been to
wonderful.
Dragon Con, but I heard good things about it, and I may
Well,
go next
Lit
year.
RPG Con. No, you got to come to Lit RPG Con.
Where's that?
Come to Lit RPG. That's gonna be in Denver.
Colorado.
Sure.
Yeah, that's going to be in July.
As
18th, 19th, and 20th.
as I'm fond of saying in a mercenary, I'm like, yeah, sure. Whenever it says you have to go to this one, I'm like, yeah, buy my plane ticket, pay for my hotel, I'll be there. Not you personally, but anyone wants to do that, then I'll be there.
Asking if you're coming to Lit RPG Con.
Geneva, he'll go if you pay for his ticket and his hotel.
Well, that's the thing, because
Geneva-
we don't get audiobook narrators. We don't get. Well, this is not entirely true. It does depend on the arrangement. If you're working directly for an author, you may do. But in general, if we're working for publishers, we don't get residuals. So if a book sells, 2 million copies or 2 copies, we just got paid, to record it.
Yeah.
So in that sense, marketing the book doesn't directly aid us financially.
Right.
So it's kind of like, it's always, though I love to go to events and things, it's usually like, well, I'll be away from recording, which is how I make money, and I'll be spending, the hotel and the flight and everything. And so at the end of the day, am I going to just, like sort of a few $1,000s out the window and can't work? And it's a shame, but it's usually kind of a mercenary decision where I'm like, yeah, I can't afford it. I'd love to, but not this time.
That's understandable.
So and I mean, authors, a lot of authors are obviously not making money from it as well, but at least you can bring a book and hopefully sell it.
Yeah.
Like most of my books are Audible exclusive, so I can't even do that.
Yeah.
That's fair. That is
Walk
fair.
around cassette tapes.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, you can't. That's the thing. You can't even put it on USB and sell it because again, Audible exclusive. So
Yeah.
it's
They get mad.
Nothing. Yes, exactly. Wouldn't suggest such a thing. But yeah. So it's unfortunately, though I love meeting people, I love going to conventions like that. I haven't really. Some of the romance. There's some romance ones that invite narrators. Kind of and like have it set up for them. Dragon Con, though a lot of narrators attend, doesn't have it doesn't even have like a checkbox if you're applying to be a like a guest or a panelist. It doesn't even have a checkbox where you can say I do audiobooks. You can click voice actor and then it says animation or games and that's it. So you just have to then move on to the next bit.
I know Dragon Con, I'm hoping that with how successful the What RPG event is going to be a little bit more open to What RPG stuff because it feels like a lot of the authors don't get enough attention.
Yeah, I hope so. Kurt Bonham is a narrator, and he lives in Atlanta, and he's a fantastic narrator as well. The last thing I know he did was I, Skeletor, which I think is a great name for a book.
Is that a Nathan one?
No, I don't believe so. I think it was like Simon & Schuster or something, or Blackstone. I don't know. But yeah, it's a officially licensed like Masters of the Universe book.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but Kurt's great. He lives in Atlanta, and I know he knows one of the Dragon Con people, and was saying that they're kind of enthusiastic about narrators. They just haven't intentionally include. They haven't sort of made a space for them on the program or anything yet. So yeah, maybe.
So Joel, I need you to pop up these comments for me again real quick since you're hosting. We got Shirtaloon going to Lit RPG Con. Heath, I'm trying to sell you on this.
Oh,
so
really?
just bear with
Oh,
me.
is it? I haven't seen Shirt. I didn't get to see Shirt when he was here this most recent time.
So we got Shirt.
Heath is going, or Haylock.
Haylock's going. Nice. Yeah.
Great
That's
panel
pretty good.
possibility.
I did hear someone mention Lit RPG Con. So I do like Denver. So so far it's all positives.
And
you say it's in July?
It's July 18th, 19th, and 20th.
Good to know.
And that's where we will be doing our live episode. So if you wanted, if you came, you could harass us instead of us harassing you.
I'm gonna make a note.
I'm most likely gonna be getting asked about feet pics. I can already sense it. I can feel it in my
feet pics.
Okay.
Is that like a long running joke?
You have not heard. Okay, so last year at GuildifyCon, so GuildifyCon 23, Matt Dinneman went on a show and was like, hey, I will go on the Chat and Stats podcast with Richie and Joel. 20 people have to send Richie feet pics. I hate feet. Nice. I loathe feet. 20 people have to send Richie feet pics. 100 fucking submissions later, within 24 hours, mind you, I was like, hey, we hit the goal, Matt. Can people stop? And he's like, nah, they're going to keep going.
It's
So I
funny
have a
when-
love-hate real.
Yeah, when you said that about the foot pics, I was thinking this story may involve like Matt Dinderman or like R.C. Bray. They're the first people who I thought of. It was like, yeah, they do that. They do that. That just seems like a thing that they'd be involved in.
Joel, pop up that last comment from
Yeah.
Geneva. So applications are open until January 15th for guests and panelists.
Oh, good to know. Thank you. Geneva,
So-
appreciate it.
Not that we're
is
trying
one of
to,
the
you know,
coordinators.
bribe you into going or anything.
This was going to be the like I have told myself this is the year that I will try and get to a convention of some kind. So yeah, so that's
Okay.
good to know.
One dedicated to a genre. Fuck you, Geneva.
Yes, indeed. Nice.
So here, hold on.
How do you feel about Christmas stockings? Like if it's red and large, is that okay?
Christmas
that's
stockings
not
are
really
fine
feet
because
aren't
they're
actually gonna go
Though.
into it?
It's not a foot.
It's not a foot, so it's the foot itself. Good to know. Oh,
Steve,
sorry.
I
I'm
have
just
an actual narrator question for you.
Aha! Please.
So how do you decide what the voices are going to sound like? Is that something that you work with the author on beforehand, or just something on the fly?
So it depends on the project. In general, I don't work directly with an author. So I might get notes from the author through the publisher. So I have on books had like quite, a character list and something quite explicitly saying, I think this character probably has a Scottish accent. That's like the most specific, kind of thing that I would get. I would say that's rare that happens. At the other end of the spectrum, you have like Shirt, who he started to do it a bit more, but at least in the first few books, rarely wrote into the text anything about how a character sounded. Some authors kind of will say, in their falsetto, or they'll say, their growly voice. And in romance, people never stop growling. It's all growling all the time. Things like that. But he didn't really do that, and we, never had a discussion. So it was just very much like open slather. And I'll certainly be higher-handed, for want of a better term, with my choices if it's something like lit RPG where I feel like at the end of the day the goal is to be entertaining. So and it's not a real-world setting. So I'm just going to kind of basically be like, all right, what accent do I think is going to work well for this character? And pretty much have for better or worse, I'm entrusted to make those decisions. Whereas if it was a book, like a real world book kind of thing, I wouldn't just randomly be like, oh, well, this one character definitely is going to sound like they're from Belfast, or that their voice is 4 octaves below Barry White, or at least my version of that. So basically, it's you get notes from the author sometimes. Otherwise, I go through the book before I record it and make notes regarding anything that's actually in the text. So if it says
Right.
they have this kind of voice or that kind of voice, you get things like in Monsters where there's kind of a lot of stuff about like how Shade sounds like a butler, but that wasn't in the first book that Shade appeared in. So like, I had already made a choice. So sometimes it's nice to have now Shirt and I do talk about things, so he might occasionally be like, oh hey, this character who is only in one scene, they're going to be in this next book a lot. And so then at least I know, okay, well, whatever choice I make for that character, I'm going to probably have to
Stuck with it.
stick with it for more dialogue, which is not always the case. You sometimes don't know that a character's going to stick around, like they'll have 2 lines, and so you give them a very idiosyncratic and perhaps a difficult character voice, and then it turns out they're going to be the main character of the 3rd book, and suddenly you got to deal with the choices of your past self.
Fair enough.
I hope that
Fair
answers the question.
Yeah.
How difficult was Taika
That was a good one.
accent
Taika was
for
good.
you?
Taika's easy. Taika's just a friend
Is he?
who I knew in Australia, just purely based it on him, who was Maori, and yeah, so that was easy. I had got the book and I was like, oh, there's a big, Maori guy who says bro at the end. Oh yeah, like that's my friend, so that's fine. So yeah, that was a voice that I found very easy to slip into. I actually just recorded a short story for an anthology of World War II fantasy stories, and that had actual Maori phrases in it. That was challenging because it is a phonologically inconsistent. Like, this is not. I'm not criticizing it. Like, if you read about the language, because it's been influenced by white settlers, and also because just of the way it's evolved, there's not kind of a standard accepted where emphasis goes and how vowels are. So it's like quite all the research I did in the end, it was like, well, whatever you do, someone's going to say it's wrong. So just I'll do my best, basically. But yeah, that's a really cool story. It's in it's called Combat Monsters is the anthology, and it'll be out sometime next year, I think, from Blackstone Audio. I'm just one of like 15 or 20 narrators doing a short story, but the short story is about a giant snake that Field Marshal Rommel has as a pet during World War II. So yeah, it was a really cool story. I just finished that yesterday.
Rachel asks, what's been your most difficult voice to narrate?
About difficult. I know with Monsters, I made a decision for Dominion's like 3 lines, and then they came back in another book and had like a long sort of sit down casual chat with Jason, and so I changed the voice to something more listenable and not as hard on my vocal apparatus. And then I made 1 line that the character says in the original Dominion voice, just to kind of throw back to that. The nice thing about gods is they can sound whatever the fuck they want to sound like. So
yeah,
you're not sort of bound by that. So yeah, I mean that was. It's more. I think sometimes difficulty is more like when characters who didn't start together show up. So you have a thing where you give a character a very similar character voice, in a book, and then 3 books later, suddenly the 2 of them decide to go on a road movie. Buddy comedy together, and suddenly you're like, oh, I gave these 2 guys very similar voices, and now they're going to have a bunch of dialogue back and forth. That's always a little unfortunate.
Yeah.
Okay. I gotta.
So,
Joel, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go, buddy.
Okay. I was going to ask, what do you think is your most underrated performance? Like something you wish was received a lot better.
Yeah, I really like the Dead Man series that I did.
I need to read that one.
Again, C.W. Titus, Chris Titus, especially the 3rd book. It's a trilogy, so it's just 3 books, and it's just really solidly written, and it's certainly of a certain taste. So, if you don't like kind of Fallout-esque, quite dark, sort of thing, it's not going to be for you. So it's kind of difficult to, if someone's like, hey, I love heretical fishing, I'm probably not going to be like, what you'd probably like irradiated death.
So,
but I love it. I just think it's really, I think it was just really solidly written, and I very much enjoyed it.
No las dos?
I love Fallout.
So you're saying, hold on, I got this. So you're saying I love, Edge Force. I'm gonna like Dead Man Walking.
Oh, Edge Force, nice. I mean, and Edge Force again is another one that like people don't listen to, and I think Edge Force has got kind of to me at least, like a sort of a body horror kind of Resident Evil sort of feel to it.
Yes.
Which I like as well, but again, it's not everyone's cup of tea. Edge Force is very different from
main character gives
from
me Leon
Dead
Kennedy
Man in
vibes.
terms of like tone, I would say. But they're both great authors. But it's the Dead Man trilogy is one I like. I think also because the entire thing is in a very different sound for me, because it's not British or Australian. It's all this kind of weird Western thing. So it's was certainly a very different world to play in.
I need to read that one. Holy shit!
Now I just want to see what your American accent's like.
Yeah, what's the most difficult?
I got more than one. I got more than one. but yeah, it's I tend to not throw in an American accent if I'm doing a book that's kind of quote unquote generic fantasy. I usually don't throw in an American accent like for a random gnome or something. Occasionally I do, but I usually kind of keep it to a more European kind of flavor. But
I mean, we get a American accent in He Who Fights with Monsters.
You get a few, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a few actual Americans in that.
Yeah.
So yeah, but then there's also like I think from memory, like some random guy who was showing Jason around a waterfall. I think he sounded a little bit like he was like operating a New York deli when he wasn't taking people around the waterfall. So there might have been a few other characters who kind of sound a little bit American here and there. But
That's fair.
Yeah, but no, I mean I've lived here for for more than a decade now. So
wow,
I've heard an American or two.
Just a couple.
Yeah, just a couple.
But the Dead Man Walking was
He didn't
like
say he went out. Like
was a western. So again, it was the kind of like a non-specific southern. People like, you're doing Texas, right? I'm like, well, not really. I'm like, the nice thing about fantasy is I'm like, I don't have to be specific.
Yeah. What's your most difficult accent to do?
I mean, there's some that I don't know. I try and avoid the ones that I can't do, that I find very, very challenging. I'm doing a YA book soon that I got an email from a publisher who was like, we're doing this YA book, and it's from not just like lines, but from the perspective of some chapters are from the perspective of a South African, some chapters from an Australian, some from an American, and some from a Canadian. And we were trying to think of who could do that, and you were the only name that came up, that we had off the top of our heads. How do you feel about that? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. So that's coming up. So I'm sure that's going to be a challenge, just because I don't feel like the Canadian accent is a sort of generic Canadian accent is not that different from an American accent. So, and I'm not just going to throw in like I'm not going to do the SNL version and just throw in like sorry and a boot every now and then. So that's probably going to be a challenge to do. Oh, you know what accent I can't do? I can't do the like old school regional Maine accent, because no one has ever, I don't like learn how to do an accent for funsies. Like, unless I'm asked to do it for a role, I don't, just kind of go out on a weekend and be like, maybe if I was if I had less work, I would. But so I've never had to do a Maine accent, and so even though I've lived here for over a decade, I can't do one. I'm sure that at some point there's going to be a book or I almost said radio play there, which again makes me sound like an antediluvian grandfather. There's going to be an audio drama or something that's going to have like a Mainer that I have to do. And then I will have to actually learn how to do that voice. But I can't do it.
That's fair.
Yeah, Geneva's right. Corporal Claus does have a wonderful voice.
Oh, thank you.
The sound effect that you do when Sergeant Snips like yeets people into the ocean is like fantastic.
That's funny too, because I was talking about that recently as an example of sometimes you do one take of something, you do it because audiobooks you got to do so much material, you don't have time to fuck spiders, as they say in Australia. So you got to just get through it, quickly to a certain extent. I feel like that phrase was less well known until Chris Hemsworth mentioned it, he was on like.
Graham this is the first time I've heard it.
Oh, you have?
I love it.
Graham Norton said it on, or was it Chris Hemsworth and Graham Norton, or was it Margot Robbie? I don't know. It was some very well paid Australian actor who said it on a chat show, and then I've heard it since. But
awesome.
It was, what was that?
Oh, Geneva commented, "I need Rocky's
Rocky
as a ringtone."
But yeah, that was one of those ones where I just did it, and then I thought, you know what, I should probably do that again, and make sure it's good enough. And then I did it again, and I did it again, and then I did it again, and then I went and used the first one. And that happens so often, where if it's something where it's like a one word or a, like that, where it's kind of an odd, many letters, or it's the last line of the book, and so you want to give it, the appropriate gravitas. You record it 7 times, and then I so often end up using the first one. for whatever reason. It's just the kind of one that comes naturally. I should just
Yeah.
trust my instincts for it, I guess. But yeah, no, the yeet was fun. It's funny because I discussed with Haylock because he didn't put any animals speaking in the second book on purpose. So he decided that it wasn't, it wasn't a thing that he wanted to do. So first book they talk, second book they don't.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, and so I don't necessarily talk directly to authors. I certainly in no way try to influence what an author is writing. It sounds like I'm saying that and doing like a big wink. I'm not. I genuinely mean that I don't try and do that. But he had said to me something about it, and I was like, oh yeah, I miss doing the voices. And he was like, oh, do you want me to should the characters talk again? Like, and then suddenly I'm like, oh no. Like I don't like no. I just read the book. Like I don't want to be involved in like making a certain thing happen in a certain way. I said I just miss doing them. I'm not saying put them back in. I'm just saying I miss doing them. The characters were obviously still in there. They just didn't have like lines, as it were, sort of in their, their voice. So I think they're back in the third one. Is the third one out? No.
Third one is
out.
The third one is out. I haven't started it yet. I'm almost done with book 2.
Right. So yeah, they talk in the third one. Not as much, but I think they do talk in the third one. Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Absolutely. Fire away.
What is a dream role you would love to like your dream character to play in general? It could be movies, TVs, video games. Who would you like to play? That would be your dream role to play.
Look, I mean, I'd happily be a doctor in any format, like obviously, I'm not in the running for the TV series, funnily enough, but I really like the Big Finish audiobooks, and I know that again they get the people from the television show in general.
Yeah.
But I like that kind of character. I enjoy a character that has been played by a bunch of different actors, for one thing, and also that kind of somewhat enigmatic, mercurial, trickster kind of character is definitely a thing that I like. So something like that. It's funny when people say, what's your dream role? Because it's kind of like with audiobooks, it's like, well, I can't say a book that's already been done by someone else because, the odds of them doing another version of that and me suddenly stepping in are slim. So it's usually really the answer is one that I haven't got yet that is going to show up hopefully at one point, and I'll be like, ooh, this is exciting. So yeah, it's something like that.
Okay, I see what you mean. I mean, like for me, I really want to play one of the Greek gods or Odysseus at some point. Like that's a voice I really want to do.
I mean, look, the gods are great. So anytime you get to be a god,
no, they're not. Fun. They're horrible people.
Well, that too, especially the Greeks.
Now I'm just gonna have that El Dorado song stuck in my head for a while.
Oh Jesus Christ! Those are the Mayan gods, Joel.
It doesn't matter. It's the song.
Shut up. We're not going down this road again. So, I mean, you get to voice some gods, and he fights with monsters. You also pretty much get to tell gods to get bit. So,
yeah. No, you'd be surprised how often there's gods pop up in fantasy work. So yeah, you get that thing where the description is their voice comes out of every stone and brick and mouth and tree all at once, and then you do your best because it's just me, and they're not even gonna have they're not even gonna put reverb on it. So it's like
that's fair. That's fair. So, do you have any other exciting books coming up that you're allowed to talk about?
I don't know. I don't think so. I never mention anything unless it's either already listed on Audible or I've specifically asked the producer, which I don't usually do because it usually just seems to throw them and suddenly there's a whole bunch of emails back and forth, and I'm usually of the more like let's not make anyone's job harder variety, even for asking questions. So I don't know. I mean, Downtown Druid will be out at some point. I believe that their ebook is listed as coming out in April of next year, so probably the audiobook as well. I've just finished recording that. I really had a blast doing that, and I think it's a really good story and some really fun characterization. So that's definitely one that I would say have a listen to.
Obviously, he who fights with monsters. The next book.
Yes, I have a Patreon myself, so you can always go to that and hear me do odd little things. Someone had given me a advent calendar that had tiny little stories in, and so I did a couple of those for the Patreon, and I do things like, I'll sing I Will Survive as Gary or something, or I kind of do fun stuff on the Patreon for my,
I'll come to Patreon just for that.
for my engagement and others. So I mentioned that because like audiobooks are a long lead up time, like I get booked and then I do it and then it takes forever to come out. So there's something nice about Patreon where I can jump on and record something like that afternoon and then put it up, and people can hopefully listen to it and enjoy it. So yeah, that's always nice.
I will say book 4 of Heretical Fishing's up for pre-order now.
Oh, it is. Well, there you go. So that's a book I'm doing. I haven't recorded it yet.
There we go.
Well,
obviously you're doing that one, Heath.
Yes, I am. Well, actually,
I would be having a conversation with Haylock.
Well, Shirt on his Discord and Patreon said the erstwhile narrator of He Who Fights with Monsters, and I don't know if it was like a typo or something, but then straight away a whole bunch of people were contacting me and being like, "Are you not doing the series anymore?" And I said, If that is the case, it does not be discussed with me. I don't think that's how Shirt would tell me, or the publisher Podium would tell me. So no, I think we're good, folks. But yeah, people were momentarily dismayed.
I don't think anyone else would do it justice.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
The narrator change is always a hard one to do, but like when you're 12 books in, 13 books in,
yeah. Oh, I also think it's not even really a case of Neil Helligas, for example, and a lot of really good narrators have taken over from other narrators on the series, and I feel like it doesn't matter what you do. It just doesn't, because you're not the voice that someone has already, listened to and become accustomed to. And I feel the same way. So if I was listening to a series, and I even had that back with the Discworld books when Nigel Planer used to do them all, and then I forget the name of the narrator. I mean, there's new versions of them now, but there was another narrator who took over. It just didn't sound right to me, because again, you've become so used to something, and it's not that the second narrator isn't doing a spectacular job. It's just very rough to take over. I've managed to, I haven't yet taken over a series, and I haven't yet, I'm trying to find a diplomatic way, exited a series. I won't say bailed on a series, or sort of, discreetly slipped out the back door. Because I don't know, it might happen at some point, but I don't really want to be the person who's like taking over and making people suddenly discomforted that their original voices are gone. And also, if someone has got used to me in a series, I don't want listeners to have to get used to someone else. So I don't know if I'll be able to keep that up indefinitely, but at the moment I have managed to not to stick with series I'm on, and I have been asked to do series, to take over a few things, and I've been like, you know what, I'm good.
So how selective do you have to be when like taking on new roles? Like, do you get asked to do a lot of stuff and you're like, oh yeah, I'm doing it all? Or
I'm very fortunate in that, like, I do have more work than I can do, more just than I have the time to do, which is, really lucky. Also, a lot of lit RPG and fantasy stuff tends to be long. So whereas some of my colleagues who do romances that are 3 or 4 hours, they can take on, a ton of projects. If I say yes to a book, and say like the Ashbourne series, and the books are going to be 25 hours each, and there might be 10 of them or something. I think I've done 3 or 4 or 2, or I don't know. It's a big chunk, and so, and I'm newer-ish to it, and so you do end up in the situation, like Travis Baldry say, where if you're doing a whole bunch of series, those series are going to keep coming out, and so suddenly you're compounded with like just a ton of work, and there's only so many hours in the day. So it's I'm lucky in that I have like a lot of work. I just try, it's a balance of like wanting to continue the things I've done, as we just talked about, so if I've said yes to a series, I usually try and keep going with it. And then also I like variety. So someone just offered me to do a book recently that is quite well written, but it's very, very similar in sort of theme and subject matter to a series I already do. So I'm probably going to turn it down. Sorry if you're listening, publisher, who I haven't yet emailed. But
they're probably not. We're still small.
Yeah, good. You never know. You never know.
True.
I occasionally have made really like very vague references to something, and then I've got like, then I've met the person like once, like then I saw them at like a function, and they were like, "So I heard you say on that," and I'm like, "Really? You listened to that? Oh, okay." But yeah, so like that one I probably won't do just because I like varieties, so it's nice to do like different stuff. So it's not like. I'm trying to think of what would be a really obvious one where it's like heretical lawn mowing or something. It's not that, but it's things like that. So no,
I would
usually
love
just
a heretical lawn
variety.
mowing. Hey, get on that.
I say yes to short things a lot because I can like squeeze them in. So yeah. I get all excited if someone's like all right,
hey,
here's a short thing.
One really quickly because we were going through your Audible history earlier, and I saw a World of Warcraft title.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, hold on. I got to ask Heath about this before the show ends tonight. What is that? Because I saw it was like 3 hours long.
It's funny because
get it.
No one ever mentions that. It was the weirdest thing because it's like an atlas essentially. It's kind of like a little guide to, which I adored those books, especially as a teenager. I fucking loved any sort of in-world fantasy guidebook or atlas, any kind of non-fiction book within a fantasy world. Sign me up. Like, it's great. But that was an odd one. I don't do games or animation, not because I don't want to. I don't have an agent. I've never sort of tried to make any inroads in those areas, which are very different from audiobooks. However, a casting director. No, it wasn't. Was it a casting director? No, it was someone else in the team contacted me and was like, "I love your work so much. Would you be interested in doing a voice for World of Warcraft, as in the game?" And I was like, "Fuck yes, of course I would.
Yeah.
Absolutely." I recorded some stuff. It went in. I didn't get the gig. I think also they were like, "You know what? You need to be a union for this," which at the time I wasn't. I am now. So anyway, that didn't happen. But subsequent to that, I don't know who produced that title. Blackstone or someone contacted me and was like, "Hey, we're doing this little World of Warcraft book. Do you want to do some of the voices in that? Like some of that?" And so I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So it was kind of an odd little thing where I had like a round the back kind of guerrilla audition for World of Warcraft, which I did not get, and then I ended up doing a very small book title. But I got to do like Arthas and Medivh, and I mean I was playing Hearthstone literally this morning, so it was
Arthas is my favorite character.
So I was like it was very excited. So yeah, it's I haven't listened to a minute of it, so I don't know how it turned out to be honest, but it was certainly fun recording it, and I love the fact that I did it with did I record it live with it? No, I didn't record it live with an engineer or a director, but the person who proofed it knew their shit. Like the person who proofed it, often people are coming in and they just have a reference material and they're listening to your audio, but the person who proofed it was from Blizzard, so they were they were
well, looking at it on Audible, it says the publisher is Blizzard Entertainment. So
there you go. So there you go.
Also, I need to know if you're coming to Lit RPG Con now, because you said you did a voice for Arthas. You're signing my Arthas pop figure, just so you know. So
nice. My disappointment on that was that I wanted to do the like disco Medivh from Hearthstone, which I know is kind of a deep cut, but there was like a one night in what's the name of the what's the Stan in World of Warcraft? It's not Kazakhstan. It's an actual place. Anyway, there was like a sort of a Eurovision-y, like ABBA disco kind of version of Medivh in Hearthstone, and I was like, oh, I kind of want to do that, but no, I have to do a serious Medivh. So
I have to listen to this now. It's only 2.5 hours long, but that would be worth every penny. So
I think the only thing I've ever heard of, you the only person who's ever brought it up, except for one person who messaged me once and was like, "Hey, I bought a book you did, and it was like a guidebook or a map in audio. Why would anyone make that?" And I was like, okay, interesting.
I like my World of Warcraft. It's my go-to. When
No,
Joel and
I
I
get
graduated
it.
from high school, we we went to his house. It was like the week after graduation, and
Mm.
I had just got my new computer. Joel got his, or I gave Joel my old laptop, and we invited our buddy Bryant over, and we stayed up until like 7 a.m. just raiding in World of Warcraft.
Good
We went and
times.
saw 22 Jump Street while World of Warcraft
Ha!
was installing and everything, and then we went and played World of Warcraft for 7.5 hours.
I think they're
So,
underrated films, actually.
So old now.
Jess, we didn't ask you if you feel old or not. We're telling a story
Oh
here.
my god.
Is that Jess? Is that because you were
You
watching
just-
the original, like Johnny Depp, him playing saxophone in his bedroom, Jump Street?
You had just graduated high school when that came out.
In 2014, yeah.
Oh my
I'm turning 30 next year. We've been over
I'm
this.
so old.
I was
You-
watching 21 Jump Street the series like late night, in Australian television. So
I will be 41 in 8 days.
yeah.
Happy
So
early birthday.
I'm
We love you,
old.
Jess.
Thank you.
if you haven't seen it, look up Johnny Depp playing saxophone 21 Jump Street. That's fun.
It's good.
For a moment.
It's good.
Yeah.
The original 21 Jump Street is fantastic.
The remake films were actually surprisingly good.
They really are.
I need more of them.
They
I need
were.
more of them.
I liked the end
Fun.
credits where they rolled through like all the trailers for all the movie posters for all the sequels.
What contract interest?
I love a good manufactured in universe trailer again, or like things like Toy Story where they had to make bloopers. I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah.
They took the trouble to write, voice, and animate bloopers. I thought was such a nice choice.
Yeah, that was a good touch.
They removed the more lascivious one. I don't know if you know that, but there used to be one with Kelsey Grammer outside of the box talking to two Barbie dolls, and he's like, "Well, actually, I'm quite highly placed in." The whatever Prospector
VHS
Pete.
still.
He's like, I'm kind of highly placed in this, so maybe I could get you some work. And they took that out of like the more recent releases because they were like, hashtag me too. Maybe we shouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Disney Plus version doesn't include it, but I have the original VHS, so
Yeah.
I can still watch it because I like my shitty jokes. I'm sorry, but I do.
It's nice to have physical media. I just watched Everything Everywhere All at Once on Blu-ray. Because the thing with digital stuff is you don't own it a lot of the time, and it vanishes because things change hand, or indeed they change the version, and so suddenly the only one you can get your hands on, if it's just a little thing like that, it doesn't matter, but suddenly the only one you get your hands on isn't the version that you kind of bought and wanted. So I don't have like an extensive DVD collection or Blu-ray or anything, but it is nice to physically have some things.
Well, and there's always like the changes, like you said, like because like Lilo and Stitch on Disney Plus, they the scene where Lilo is hiding from Nani at the beginning of the movie, she crawls into a dryer in the
They
original
turned it into
version.
like a bread box, didn't they?
It's like a nightstand with a pizza box in front of it. It's
I
like
saw that.
obviously she's gonna know you're in there. With the dryer, it was like, oh, this is actually kind of brilliant, but it was also like, hey kids, don't go in the dryer and hide.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but when I was a child, I could not fit in a dryer, so my legs were too long.
We gotta learn.
We tried. But I think this was a fun episode. What do you guys think? This was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I got to listen to Heath some more, so
yeah.
I had fun. I kind of wish I got to, because the thing with 3 hosts is like I just want to hang out with each of you, like and have a chat.
Well, so hey Heath, here's the thing. You have the opportunity. It's called Lit RPG Con.
Lit RPG Con.
Nice. I love how you're bringing it back there.
Yeah. Hey, like I know what I'm doing. Sometimes.
Jess is frozen for me on a very serious looking face. So I'm like, whatever I've said tonight is clearly.
Well, she's going off of her cellular data. I'm going off of my cellular data because I'm on my iPad at the moment because my computer's boxed up. So normally
you said you're moving.
Yeah. So I have my XLR mic, ready to go and everything, but I'm in the process of moving, and I've already disconnected the internet and everything. All of my electronics for the most part are packed up and ready to ship. I just got to do my book collection now, which I'm scared. I am also scared.
If it works, it works. If a mic works, it works. I do most of my videos, cameos, and Patreon stuff. I do use my iPhone, even though I have like a small collection of pro mics because it's whatever's at hand and quick and easy.
Right. That's a mood. That is a mood.
Yeah. And I just finished a move, so I am at the new house with no internet yet on my cell phone. And I usually have like a laptop and a speaker and a microphone all set up, and I have none of that.
Nice.
It's all boxed
and
up.
that's why my camera's been moving. Like whenever I move in the booth, it's the iPad camera is just tracing me at this point. So
Cool.
if I go down here, it starts to lower, and I
It's
hate
a
it.
feature.
I try not to look. I try not to look in the background, or I get distracted. So, for example, I haven't looked at anyone's background, but if I start to, see, there you go, Witcher. I'm distracted already now.
Yeah,
I'm like, now I'm just like, let's talk about The Witcher and nothing else.
I love The Witcher.
And you, Jess, I'm like, what is the art? I'm like, it's like blurry enough that I can't quite make it out. So I've been trying to.
None of it's mine. It's all like the house was mostly furnished when I got here.
I see.
So I've got to like take down a lot of the stuff that's not mine and put up the stuff that is. So
nice.
It's a lot.
And this is the last episode in the booth here.
Yes, got your booth treatment. Love it.
Yeah, the makeshift booth treatment.
Hey, I recorded the first Monsters book in essentially a closet that I had.
That's what this is.
I had converted. Only the first one, I think. From the second one on, I had moved into a somewhat upgraded setup as I was spending so many hours. Yeah,
nice.
Good to have.
So the place we looked at and everything and got approved for is it has a walk-in closet. It's got 2 in the master bedroom. So nice. I told my partner, I was like, hey, just so you know. And she goes, well, we have the 3rd bedroom. I was like, that's cool. Hey, just so you know, this closet here. Yeah, this one here. This is mine. Yeah. I'm going to soundproof it.
Nice.
I will put a light in there if I have to again. Because a buddy of mine came and installed this light because this didn't have light in it. So that was fun. And that's going to be my booth. And I can get my projects up and going because I've been delaying it because I had to take some time off to focus on some other stuff.
So, Heath, what is this TV show? Was it Ship to Shore? Was that you?
Yeah. I was in that when I was a kid. Yeah, that was I was like 11 and 12.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
I gotta watch the show now.
As an Australian show.
Yeah. I started in kids. I started in kids TV. I think the first thing I was on, I was like 7, just for like a few days,
cow.
And then I had a lead role. I missed like 2.5 years of school, and did like this TV show, and then so I've been doing it for forever, forever, which is one way into sort of audiobooks, and then other spectacular narrators of my acquaintance, had other jobs well into their 30s, and then kind of moved across to it from other fields and stuff. So it's many ways into it. It's one of the nice things about it, unlike some jobs that I feel like are much more like exclusive's the wrong term, but just there are barriers that are significant. Voice acting in general is one of those things where because you can convert a closet these days and get to work, it's nice.
Do you like doing voice acting more than like screen acting?
That is a good question. It's been so long now that I feel like I barely remember. I moved to an island off so I was a stage actor and mostly ads, actually, more than TV. I did a lot of, I guess ads are on TV, aren't they? But you know what I mean, not programs. It was mostly like TV commercials and theater in Australia. And then I met someone and moved to an island off the coast of Maine. So voice acting was really just, okay, what can I do here? There wasn't like a theater. I could do Shakespeare like for the deer and the ducks in the forest, but I don't imagine they'd pay very well. I'm like, can you sign up to my Patreon? And they just like leave. So voice acting was basically like I've never done anything other than acting for my life. Other than I've done plenty of plenty of selling tickets and ushering and various other like Joe jobs, but acting's all I've ever done. So I moved and was like, all right, well, this is a thing that I can probably do. well, it took a long time to make that happen in a way that was, paying the bills. But yeah. So did I answer your question? No. Which do I like better? Not sure. Been too long. I really enjoyed stage and I really enjoyed screen when I had the opportunity. And I love audiobooks. I mean, I love the fact that, like, in some ways, I think it's probably a good thing that I fell into, because I always loved the first reading of a play. That was like one of my favorite parts. Like, everyone gets together and you do the first reading. And I always just felt like it was a fantastic, exciting thing. And an audiobook is basically like the first reading of a play, except you're playing everyone.
You're everyone.
And you're doing the stage directions. And then once you finish that first reading, they say cut, and then that goes on the internet and you're done.
That's fair. That is fair.
It's the best part of each one.
What was that, Jess?
It's the best part of each one.
Yeah. So it's nice in that sense. It's less good in that I have to manage like a long projects, because if a book is 20 hours, I can't knock it off. And unlike a TV show or a stage play where I have to be at a certain place at a certain time, the nature of theatre or indeed TV, audiobooks, it's more that you have to make that happen, which, as someone who has very at times serious ADHD, that kind of executive function can be a little challenging. So that's something that I continue to struggle with. But yeah, the books get done, so that
as
works
long
out.
as they get done, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, Richie, as long as they get done.
Hey, we went over this. I already feel bad enough, okay?
But, it's just that theatre, you got to be there. They don't like it if you don't come to the performance.
Yeah.
Whereas theoretically, I can wake up at 9 and say to myself, I could start at 10.
Yeah. You're in control of your own schedule.
No one is going to physically prevent me from doing that.
Yeah.
Now I'm having flashbacks to opening night for one of our plays in high school. They had the big football game versus one of the our big competitors the same night. So while we were in the theater, you could hear the game going on across the street.
Amazing. My high school theater was also the gym, and so I do remember. I don't think it was a performance, but I do remember them playing basketball on the other side. So it's open, and one side it was the sort of the basketball court, and the other side was the audience part of the theater, and the stage was in between the two. So I remember a rehearsal. At least it was a dress rehearsal, so there were people in the audience, and all you could just hear was the sound of many basketballs being dribbled.
No, we were sitting there, and if we weren't on stage, we were kind of listening, because we're okay, is our school going to win, or are we going to get our asses kicked like we did every year? It was a close game. We still lost, but it was a close game. And then the Saturday night show was packed. So that's all I care about. I was cool.
Nice.
People are here.
Sport versus...
I get to be drunk on stage. Oh, well, I think it is time to start wrapping up the show and our final show for the year. So,
congratulations on your many shows and for getting through the year.
Thank you for being on for our final episode.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. I was trying to figure out what we were going to do for the last episode, and Jess was like, hey, I got a hold of Heath. I was like, thank God. Okay. Cool. So let's do this.
I was like, I want Heath
Miller. To start off next year, we are taking most of January off. We will be coming on January with TJ Lombardi to do Gauntlet Master. Joel, go ahead and hold that.
That was a really good reach there, Joel. You didn't even look.
Yeah.
Peripherally excellent.
That's the box it came in. The book itself is in there.
Yeah.
But Joel and I are the headmasters of Status Academy in Gauntlet Master, which is very fun. I can't wait to hear what the audiobook narration
it is going to be so hard to not be biased for this book.
Right. But I don't think the voice actor has been announced yet. I found out who it was because I straight up asked. I was like, hey, who's voicing me? I need to know. And they told me. I was like, okay, I can allow that. That's fine. That's all right.
Listening to Jeff Hayes narrate my character was fun.
Oh, nice. What project was that, Jess?
Dungeon Crawler Carl, the newest book.
Yeah, Jess is a character in the new DCC.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, my
Cool.
character's name is Sick Ass Wargo.
I'm just gonna, with this whole brand that's been happening, I'm gonna try my hardest to convince Jeff just to be like, hey, I based this, or the system AI was just based off me the entire time. There,
Nice.
he gave it a real person. That's the personality the AI got. It's like, I observed this one guy, he hosted a really shitty podcast. That's where I got this personality. So
Jeff's great. He put me in the audio tunnel immersion version, the first chapter of that for Dungeon Crawler Carl.
when I
which was
heard you
nice.
as the ad, I was like,
Yeah,
is
it's
that
good fun.
fucking Heath Miller?
Yeah.
It's nice. Again, short things. He was like, you know this thing? I was like, probably not. And he was like, it'll be like one recording session. And I was like, yeah,
Sure.
absolutely. Then yes, I would.
Jeff
love
is
to.
fantastic. We absolutely love Jeff and the Sound Booth Theater team. They're
Yeah,
all amazing
excellent.
people.
They're great.
But all right, let's do our fun little game. I'll go ahead and start us off with what you've been reading because I haven't read really jack shit with the way I've been doing with stuff. The only thing is I've really read, I'm working through Golem Master like a chapter before I go to bed, and then I read Demon Card Enforcer 2 and Time Marked Warlock Book 2. That's about it. That's all I've
Not your
got.
normal like 12 books.
No, it has been it's been a struggle bus of a month, and I have not gotten a lot of time in with being sick and everything. So I apologize to the viewers that look forward to I know my enormous list constantly. Joel, take it away. What you been reading, buddy?
Me. I don't remember if I mentioned Silver Seekers on the last episode. It's like a
You did, I
Lich
think.
is his main
Yeah.
character. Yeah. Other than that, Defiance of the Fall 14 came out on Audible, so I had to pick that up. I did read a light novel for the world's fastest level up. There's
Okay.
like 3 books out in that, and they're like really, really short, but also really good. Another really, really good one that I read recently was Die, Respawn, Repeat.
I've read that one before.
Fantastic. Book 2 is coming out soon. And then after that, I needed some more Bruce Centaur, so I picked up Mega Master.
Hey,
Nice.
Returners
And then
Defiance.
physically, well, sorry, go ahead.
Returners Defiance Book 2 just went up for pre-order. I got the notification for it the other day.
Heck yeah. I remember I read that one in Kindle, I think. And yeah. So physically, this bad boy,
Master.
I've only really been able to read like on the way to and back from like holiday trips. So I'm only like 5 chapters in, but it's really good. I'm so excited for this episode next year.
It's going to be a fun one.
But yeah, that's what I've been reading. You want to take it away, Jess?
So right now I am listening to Heretical Fishing 2, right after I finished Heretical Fishing 1.
Hooray!
It's been so good. It's so wholesome and cute. I love it. And then I am reading Sentence to Troll 5
Oh, it's so good.
by S.L. Rowland. I've had it for a while, and I keep meaning to read it over and over and over and over, and I just haven't. So I'm finally going to read that. I finally started that, and then I'm getting ready to start book 6. And then I'll be all done with Sentence to Troll. And then I'm going to read Golem Master.
Mm-hmm.
So good. I'm almost done with it, but it's good. It's so good. I can't. Heath, what have you been reading that you
Yeah, no, I'm
about?
illiterate.
Yeah.
I have yet to develop the skill of reading, so it's sadly that's a blank slate. No, I can
I
read.
just wanted you to feel included.
I mean,
no,
I imagine when you do audiobooks, reading for fun when you're not working isn't really all that fun.
Jess, you are wise. It's not that reading isn't fun at all. It's just that I read so much because I'm always prepping what I'm not doing yet.
Mhm.
So, and in fact, when I do interviews, as I occasionally do, and people say, "What are you reading?" I often can't say because then I'm like, "Oh, has that been? Am I allowed to say that I'm doing that book?" And if I say I've been reading this one, because I'm prepping it, then I've done
Right.
it. So yeah, I don't read as much as I would like for fun. I really enjoyed those little short Advent Christmas ones, which was McSweeney's. They were tiny little stories. They're really good. And the other book I've been reading again, I don't know if you people like this, but if I pick up a book and open it, I often just end up rereading it. Like if I physically have a book and I pick it up to look at something, I'll reread it. And so I'm actually rereading House of Leaves because someone, a friend, was like, "Oh, I'm reading it. Everyone keeps recommending this book. I'm going to read it." And we're talking about it, and I was like, "I want to find the bit." And so I picked it up and I opened it, and then now I'm like
rereading it.
kind of rereading it. So that's probably the last one that I actually have been getting into. And then I Downtown Druid. Oh yes, I can say that because that's fine because it's doing that. I'm currently reading Downtown Druid 2. Which I haven't yet recorded. So
Nice.
Yeah, and that's really good.
All right. Well, I think that's about time to wrap up the show. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in and really making this year a fantastic year for us here at Chattin' Stats. We have a lot of stuff, like I said, fun planned for next year. A couple of new shows, especially Jess's Stats After Dark, where she's going to talk some romancy shit.
Spicy.
And I already got a few guests that are going to be joining her for that, so that I've yet to tell her about, or I might have told her about. I don't know because I don't remember half the conversations I've had. So
He's not.
I'm pretty sure I told you 2 of them.
Maybe.
We hung out with one of them at DragonCon, and she absolutely adores us because she's our bestie. So you should know who that is.
Yeah.
But yeah. That's one of our fun shows. Joel's got his show he's working on for his little side quest. And like we said, we'll be able to see, you'll be able to see everything live on our Patreon. And when we get that launched, which when we get it launched, we'll have it ready to go. We do have the Chattin' Stats group on Facebook if you want to join, come talk with us, etc. I've been on a hiatus from social media for almost the past month now, just because I've been dealing with a lot of personal stuff. I just haven't been very active on anything. I haven't gotten any game time or anything in, so it's kind of sucking, but it is what it is. But we got a lot of fun stuff planned. Oh, hey, look, Heath is in the comments now. Woo! Got it, Heath. You could have asked yourself some really terrible questions, Heath.
No, I just figured it wouldn't let me comment. I guess because I wasn't logged in, I had to log in to comment.
Well, I'm on my, like I said, I'm on my iPad right now, so yeah, that's kind of a fun feature. But guys,
also, thank you, Heath, for joining.
Yeah.
Absolute pleasure. I will listen to you next. Yeah. So you said you're not going to be live now. It's going to format wise will be on YouTube. Yeah,
it's going to be on YouTube and podcast apps, but we're going to be doing the live shows on Patreon, and I got to figure out how we're going to set that up, but I know there's a way, and we got some reworks in the system and everything. Also, can we just have a system apocalypse or something now? Because I want stats. I want a stat sheet and magic, please.
I kind of miss the lack of lit RPG stuff in Downtown Druid, which I really enjoy, but I do so many lit RPGs, and because the other 4 books of that author's that I've done were all lit RPGs. I'm like, where's my page where I turn across and there's like, some Patriot text or like some, something like that. But it's
I'm excited for Downtown Druid, and now I want to listen to Dead Man Walking, so that might be next on my list and knock a few things down.
Cool.
Damn it.
Well, happy holidays. Enjoy the remainder of the year. Thank you for having me on.
And everyone, we hope to see you in 2025. We have some con appearances we're going to do. Because we got Jordan Con, we got Lit RPG Con. Dragon Con is still up in the air for me with work and everything, but I'm going to try my best to be there.
I'll be at all of the above.
And then we have the 3 of us meeting up together. Now that we all live so close together, we're going to get our intro filmed and everything. So we got some fun stuff.
Yes.
And merch store. Merch store is going to be up soon. Yay.
Yeah.
Chattin' Stats merch. No one wants that, but you're going to get it anyways.
I hope everyone has a fantastic new year.
Absolutely.
And Bill, you're dragging it here.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Oh, he just left.